One of the things all ediscovery software is trying to do these days is to get data directly from the source. Normally we just put data in a folder and process, but what everyone seems to want to do now is connect directly to Slack, to Teams, or to whatever place and download data directly into their software. But I was thinking, is that actually a good idea? Let's talk about that today. One of the obvious huge advantage of this is ease of use. You have your ediscovery software, you need to add documents, you say my documents exist in Slack, you put in your credentials, you enter your search criteria, and data gets downloaded right into your review tool, and bam, you have your Slack data. Great, right? But here's the thing, by doing this, you are committing to interpretation of that particular software, how it wants to convert, let's say, Slack data to their format. And every software that you download, different applications, will do sort of a different interpretation. It's almost like doing data conversion. In old days, people used to ask, like, can we convert Lotus Notes to PST? Well, obviously you can, but it's not going to be exact. Data is going to get lost along the way. Same thing here. When you take data from Slack and you put it into, ABC Review Tool, well, ABC Review Tool isn't going to have all the identical matching fields to Slack. There has to be a translation that happens. This field goes here, this field goes there. The structure is different. Certain things will get dropped out. And basically when you do that, you say, okay, whatever it is that software is doing, I'm agreeing with that, and we're going to follow that process, which isn't necessarily bad. I'm just saying that you are accepting that translation format from A to B. And because you have that translation happening from original application to whatever review tool is, you cannot easily transfer your data into a different review tool. So a different review tool may have its own interpretation of Slack data, but the data has already been converted to the first application. So the only way to get it out and put it into a different tool is by exporting a DAT file. But the conversion that happened during collection has already been done. You can no longer undo that. That's how it's been interpreted and saved. So if you don't like that, you have no other choice, even if you are switching to a different review tool. So now you're kind of locked in with that interpretation of whatever the review tool or whatever the collection tool did. And look, that's all generally fine. Most people will be absolutely fine with accepting certain interpretation, collecting data, and putting it in their own tool. But the biggest problem I have, or one of the biggest problems, is you don't have point in time static saved version of the data. So let's say you perform the collection and you put it into your review tool, and then something happens. Oh, we need to redo something, or we want to do it differently. The data you collect at a later time could be different from the one you collected earlier. So you lost that point in time snapshot of how the data was. If, for example, you went to Slack, you downloaded your data, right? You logged in, you went to admin portal, you say export my JSONs, you export them out and you put them into a folder. You're always going to have that preserved version of messages. Nothing can change those once they're in your folder on a hard drive. But if you rely on APIs to do it, well, if you have to redo it again, the data you download the second time may change. Where if the data is in the folder and you need to reprocess, re-ingest, redo something with it, it's the same data. Nothing changes about that. And because of that, troubleshooting becomes very difficult. Since you don't have anything to compare your loaded data to, it's hard to say this data was loaded wrong. As we talked about earlier, there is an interpretation that happens. You take original data and you map fields and you read it a certain way. Well, if you don't have the original data in the folder, you can't say that this data was loaded incorrectly. You can't look at it and say whether it was done right, wrong, if there is a problem. You can't troubleshoot any issues because, again, you don't have those JSON files in the folder, or it could apply to anything, Teams, Dropbox, whatever data, it doesn't matter. You don't have it in the folder, so you can't do a comparison saying it was done right, and you cannot troubleshoot any issues. So overall, the idea of connecting to another system and downloading data directly is pretty great. I like the idea. I think it's convenient, easy to use, all that. But for me personally, it just doesn't sit well. I'm old-fashioned. I want to download my data, and I want to put it in my folder. It doesn't matter where I'm getting it from, a Teams, Slack, whatever. I want to get my data, I want to have it right here. Now that I have it here, I say, okay, let's process the data. It goes into the processing, it goes into review. I don't like that direct connection. It just doesn't feel right because I am more limited as to what I can do. Am I right? Am I wrong here? I think it's going to be a matter of personal opinion. So put your opinion in the comment section below. Do you like collecting data directly from the whatever third-party system, or do you want to have your own preserved version sitting in a folder that you could always reference? Let me know. Don't forget to follow on LinkedIn, subscribe on YouTube, and I will see you on another video.